I'm fairly sure you all know who Frankenstein is, right? You know, a scientist who tampered in God's domain and created a homunculus that everyone, including the scientists, eventually rejected, and it wound up becoming a killer.
I'm sure you're also aware that Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, was written by a young woman named Mary Shelley on a polyamorous journey through Europe. Not to mention, while working on the story, Shelley had an encounter with the 13th Doctor and would shortly thereafter become a traveling companion of the 8th Doctor.
Of course, Frankenstein has endured throughout the centuries with adaptations in movies, television shows, stage plays, and yes, even comics.
The first Frankenstein comics were published by Prize Comics during the 1940s, though initially starting out as a horror title. The war saw the creature starting to fight Nazis. Then in the 1960s, Dell Publishing's Gold Key Comics attempted to launch a line of monster superhero comics based on the depictions from the classic Universal movie series of the 30s and 40s. This saw Frankenstein joining up with Dracula and Werewolf, just Werewolf. This incarnation of the Frankenstein monster received finances from a benefactor named Henry Knickerbocker, whose life he saved, while also living under the alias of Frankenstone.
Even Marvel Comics would get in on the Frankenstein game, with the creature appearing in an anthology title called Menace in 1953. Eventually, Frankenstein would get his own ongoing book, in a move no doubt inspired by the success of Marvel's Tomb of Dracula series. The series was called Monster Frankenstein, and just later Frankenstein's Monster. And I would be remiss, the idea of a monster being hounded by society that he just wanted to be a part of and accepted in is, of course, the basis for the cornerstone character of Marvel Comics, the Incredible Hulk.
Meanwhile, also thanks to the joys of the public domain, DC had a Frankenstein book in the 70s called The Spawn of Frankenstein. The series saw the creature taking on the likes of Superman and Batman. However, DC's most noteworthy Frankenstein actually debuted in 2008, where the creature was now part of a secret government organization called SHADE. That's the Superhuman Advanced Defense Executive. Frankenstein would wind up working with SHADE to routinely hold back demonic forces.
In 1983, famed horror artist Bernie Wrightson began working with Marvel Comics on a full adaptation of the original Mary Shelley Frankenstein novel.
Wrightson, best known for creating characters like Swamp Thing and Destiny of the Endless, had been working on the adaptation for almost 7 years, while working on other things like the likes of Heavy Metal Magazine or National Lampoon.
Like I said, this adaptation would follow the novel more closely than most other works had. So, in case you haven't read that book, here's a quick little refresh.
An Arctic explorer encounters Victor Frankenstein, who relates his backstory of how he created life from nothing and it came back to bite him on the ass. Since then, Victor and his creation have played a game of global cat and mouse trying to eliminate each other. However, when Victor succumbs to illness, the creature elects to be left alone with the body, where hopefully the elements can finally end things for both of them.
But what if even the Arctic cold couldn't end Frankenstein's monster? What if he somehow lived on? And if you start thinking that he turned into Aaron Eckhart, there's the door. No, in 2012, Wrightson teamed with writer Steve Niles of 30 Days of Night fame to work on a sequel to his Frankenstein adaptation. This work wouldn't be completed until 2017 for reasons we'll get into later. But for now, let's take a look at Frankenstein Alive.
The carnival has come to town, and with it a collection of various human oddities. Amongst the strong men, the lizard women, and Jojo the Thirsty Boy is none other than Frankenstein's monster. And the audience is unimpressed. I guess they were just expecting David Prowse. Of course, all it takes is a lunge and a roar to get the kiddies to stop hurling rotten fruit and go home pleased. It's actually a pretty decent life for the Frankenstein's monster, as he makes a decent wage, and the other oddities have accepted him as one of their own.
That's probably until Jojo the Thirsty Boy stiffs him on the check.
The creature has certainly come a long way from being adrift on an ice floe waiting to die. He remembered the spirit of Victor Frankenstein appearing to taunt him as it looked like the final hours were approaching. Freezing to death seemed to be too kind an end for the creature. However, the creature pointed out that his mere existence was enough of an affront to God, and that's really all because of Victor. Yet the two will always be inextricably linked, ever since Victor hewn together body parts and somehow animated them. The monster imprinted on Victor like a werewolf on a newborn hybrid human-vampire babe. But all Frankenstein did was run away. The creature has tried to seek solace only to be rejected from the world. Just as it looked like the creature would be forever entombed in ice, it was freed by a sudden volcanic eruption. So the creature elected to take a fiery bath in liquid hot magma. Victor promised to see his creation in hell as the lava swept over him.
You know, the story is short, but it ain't that short.
Centuries later, a group of scientists chiseled a large human-shaped rock formation out of the igneous. The lead researcher, Otto Ingalls, brought the formation back to his home for further study. While trying to stand the formation up, it toppled over and shattered, setting the Frankenstein's creature free once more. Ingalls nursed the still upset creature back to health, giving him the compassion that had been so lacking earlier in life. Eventually, the creature gave Ingalls his backstory, though he omitted out exact details that led to his creation. The two would go on to hold discussions and dialogues about various sciences and arcana. Ingalls would even allow the creature access to his massive library, and soon the books inside were absorbed via perusal. This in turn led to many more talks with Dr. Ingalls, and the creature seemed to have finally found a friend.
Dr. Ingalls' specialty is natology, or as we now call it, obstetrics, with side research being done focusing on longevity of life. Of course, this is all being done for a reason.
Ingalls' wife, Dolly, had been diagnosed with the consumption, or tuberculosis. As her condition worsened, her mental state deteriorated to the point where Dolly would just wander around the massive halls of the Ingalls mansion. This in turn would wind up leading to an unfortunate encounter with the monster and Dolly passing out from the shock. Dr. Ingalls assured the creature that this was not the fault of anyone, but it still kinda hurt.
Unfortunately, going into January 2017, Bernie Wrightson had to step aside from work on Frankenstein Alive due to an ongoing cancer battle. He passed away on March 28th of 2017, but not before he personally selected Kelly Jones to finish the artwork on the project.
The encounter with Mrs. Ingalls reminded the creature just how fragile his contentment truly was. He began dreaming of the local populace, still somehow being led by Victor Frankenstein, overrunning the Ingalls estate. Further discomfort was aroused when Dr. Ingalls began dismissing the domestic staff and refusing patients, citing Dolly's ill health state. There was just one exception, a local pregnant girl named Rachel. After 2 encounters with the creature, Dr. Ingalls chloroformed her and took her to a different room. This spurred the creature to begin exploring Ingalls' labs, and it's there that he discovered the truth. Inside was a comatose Dolly Ingalls surrounded by several large jars containing human fetuses. Dr. Ingalls explained that all the babies were either premature and died quickly, or they were just stillborn. However, he was able to derive a serum from a unique group of cells contained within each of the fetuses. The serum has stabilized Dolly's condition, but in order to reverse it, Dr. Ingalls feels that he needs healthy tissue from something like, say, Rachel's baby.
Look, I know this is really disturbing, but do try to look at it this way. Many modern scholars do read into the original Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as kind of a prophetic forecast to the science of organ transplantation to help lengthen someone's life. Here, Dr. Ingalls' research is not entirely dissimilar to a lot of the research involving stem cells and their possible healing properties. So, yeah, there's kind of a connection there. That being said, the fact that he's kidnapped a pregnant woman to possibly kill her healthy child is still really disturbing.
Aghast, the creature began contemplating leaving the estate so as not to harm anyone else. However, concern over Rachel and her baby caused him to have a change of heart. Over the next 3 days, Dolly Ingalls' semi-alive body wandered the halls of the estate. At one point, a fire broke out, and the creature opted to grab Rachel from her holding cell and flee. As he made his escape, the creature spotted the Ingalls'. Both husband and wife seemed resigned to their fate as they maintained an embrace and collapsed into the flames. The stress of the fire caused Rachel to go into labor, and with nowhere else to go, the couple found a clearing where Rachel delivered a healthy baby girl. Seeing a new life being properly brought into the world gave the creature a new appreciation on existence. That being said, this wasn't a life that he felt he could share with Rachel and the baby. Understanding, Rachel directed the creature to a nearby convent by a lake, where a group of nuns took in the mother and child. From there on, the creature left not to end his life, but rather to actually live it. Because even the life created through artificial means could still be worth living. Frankenstein's monster will set out to truly know what it means to be alive. Alive!
Happy ending, I guess? So, yeah, that is how we end Frankenstein Alive. How was it? Well, on the plus side, there is obviously some very spectacular artwork in here from the late Bernie Wrightson, and it's even pretty good artwork from Kelly Jones. I honestly don't notice too much of a difference going on here. In fact, I'm pretty sure Jones only did the last issue of which is the whole fire at the mansion part. So, I mean, like I said, it's pretty well done. You don't really notice the difference. It's spot on. It's got that great kind of old literature book feel that they all have. So again, it has like that great gothic feel to it. So it's really well done. And I think the characterization is pretty nice. It's still really creepy, even though there really aren't any villains. Like, yeah, Dr. Ingalls is not a great guy, but you do kind of understand where this has come from. And of course, the monster is very sympathetic as well. And you know what, I also kind of like the idea of Victor Frankenstein continuing to be the manifestation of the monster's own self-loathing, sorry. And you know what, it's nice to see the Frankenstein's creature get a happy ending of sorts. That being said, if there's a drawback, it's that the pacing is just weird in this. I wonder, and I understand why this might not be, why this didn't happen the way it did, but I think this was supposed to be a much longer series. I think this might have been like supposed to be 5, 6, maybe even 7 books. Because why have the prologue at the Carnival Sideshow? It just feels forced. Like we needed to pad this out to an extra issue or something. Like it really doesn't add much to the story, and it just makes it feel really unnecessary. And like I said, it's a little off. And again, I understand if maybe, again, Wrightson's health concerns caused this story to be altered significantly, but it's almost as if that prologue was supposed to be a wraparound device, but instead it's like it's there, and it's like, well, how did he get to the carnival? But you didn't show that. You just show him leaving the convent, and that's how the story ends. I'm not sure. Yeah, like I get the idea, but it kind of makes the ending feel a little clunky on my book. It just doesn't quite feel right, and unfortunately, that's kind of why I can't really give this a full recommendation. I have to give Frankenstein Alive Alive a B. Again, that's still good. It's still well worth a good read. It's just, it's not the greatest thing ever, unfortunately. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions. There, you can request a trade to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. Also, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.